Welcome to the Revo Report. We're inspiring faith with reason and reason with faith.
But I was raised as atheist. I became more interested in communist ideas, and I became a member of Communist Party for a short while in army. Like I joined the army and have to pray.
Right.
And eventually, but by the time I disbanded from army, it was a perestroika and knowledge was accessible for everybody who was in the formation. So when I started looking through stuff, I start questioning my communist allegiance. And when I saw the troubles, when I started back in my country, I was born in Azerbaijan, and the war started with neighborhood Armenia. And I saw the people acting like really bad. Not exactly the same way the communists prove us, or they tell us we'll be better people in the future, right? But I didn't see the bad things. I saw the worst thing happening. Humans didn't really change over decades or centuries or millenniums. And I heard from the Bible that human heart is sinful and wicked. Right? So that's my long journey to Christ. And eventually I moved to Canada in 1994, and I became a believer just before I moved it. I said, I'm not atheist anymore. Based on the knowledge I have, I visited a couple of thousand churches, different churches. And I felt like that's the truth there in the Bible. I haven't read the Bible yet. So I started reading the Bible in Canada when I came in. I get Bible from back home in Russian, and I was reading it, and I started confused. Of course, I get confused from jealousies. And then I was invited to one church and then another one, and eventually I was baptized in Polish Baptist Church in Toronto. And I started bringing Bible to work, and I started openly sharing my faith. And then everybody kind of shocked, like you're Christian? I didn't know you're Christian, right? Tons of questions came to me, right, from that. And I was like, okay, now I have to know what I believe, right? Mm-hmm. So I have to be an apologist. Right. That's how it started. Now I start reading my Bible, start talking to a lot of Jehovah Witnesses at that time. They were very active in 97, 98 or before that. So and then I start going into the street, like once in a while, passing tracts or door knocking myself and maybe with somebody, friend, right? Didn't really work well for me. I didn't find its comfort or anything. Anyway, but 2001, I didn't really look at the Quran at all. I talked to Jehovah Witnesses, to Christadelphians, to Mormons, to whatever, atheists, right? A little bit of Jews, and Jews as well, not a little, quite a bit, Jews, right? So, but then 9/11 happened, and I looked at the Quran to try to find the jihad, because somebody said there is no jihad in the Quran. I was like, yeah, really? Let me check, right? So, but of course there is jihad in the Quran, but what caught my attention is the stories from the Old Testament in the Quran, which is not aligned with the Old Testament. And that drove me to read the entire Quran and finding the stories. That's what I was aiming at. I didn't care about jihad or anything else. And I found a lot of stories of the Old Testament, and of course some kind of New Testament stories, not really from New Testament, but sounds like stories. And by the time I thought, I have to make a file, Excel chart, and I put stories of the Quran and the Bible side by side. But then I met one guy who showed me his book. He said, this is my book. Mormons, like your book, you can publish books. Yeah, they can do it. Your own money, you can do that. Right? Yeah. So eventually he encouraged me to write the book. And it took me another year or so to actually make a format of the book, Quran Bible comparison. Yeah. Eventually in 2007, I was done and I published it here in Toronto. And one of my friends at work who knew what I was doing, I shared with him my thoughts. Yeah. And he actually, in the beginning, I want to have only Quran and Bible and the heading. Right. Story, right? And he, as he looking through it, I said, I don't understand what you mean. Like, what's difference? And he said, you have to write some kind of notes in the end. I'm like, oh, okay. So it took me another year to write notes. Right. And like my explanation, 1, 2, 3, what Quran said, 1, 2, 3, what Torah said. And I could see the conflict of interest, to speak. And eventually, the same guy came to me in 2007, early 2007, and he gave me a few books from Quran or Islamic. And I said, where do you get it from? He said, from Toronto, from downtown. The Muslims gave it to me. Muslims downtown? I said, yeah. Oh, they have a table. Oh, they have a table, so I can also have a table, right? And I went there to Young and Dundas in front of the former Eaton Center. And I put my small desk, my small table. I make a printed like Quran Bible comparison notes, so I make sure people could see it. And I have about maybe 1 or 2 boxes, I don't remember how many, but they were all taken out. People were grabbing it.
Wow.
I was like, okay, that was free, right?
Yeah, yeah.
A thick book, it's thicker than this one. The edition was thicker. And then next time, when I came on Saturday, my friend is late. A friend of mine came with me also. He's from Pakistan, originally Christian from Pakistan. So he started.
He's a Christian from Pakistan. Okay. Because I know they have a very small Christian population.
I met a lot of Christians later on, right? But he was the first one I met. And we met by accident, let's say, a good accident. And he supported me. I said, okay, let's go, and I will come in as well. We chat with people, and I brought more books with me at the time. We chat with Muslim guys because they was giving away Quran a few meters away from my table. And then he said, oh, I have a friend and I'll bring him next time. So he brought a friend, and that friend brought another friend, and they brought a big table. And you could see in the picture, like how 30 by 72 table with a sign and everything, and full of literature. And I was bringing literature myself, right? So, and it was at that time, the Muslim, before the second time when I adopted a Muslim, he got my book before, and he was upset with the book because whenever I wrote something he didn't like about jihad or something.
Yeah.
And the way he talked to me, I felt unsafe.
Okay. He's getting aggressive.
He was not aggressive, but the way he talks, like it's a bad book or something. So I said, okay, should I come? Should I not come? I don't know. But then thought came to me, you don't need to bring your book. They have materials over years. You come with loads with stuff.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. So I came with all the stuff, and that's how it became like a Bible corner. Like,
right.
And that from 2007 to 2019, like all these years, I was going there every Saturday, sometimes Friday, but usually Friday, somewhere like 11, 12-ish, and then stay about four hours, just regular time slot, right? And have some different friends with me coming up and helping out. So it was very interesting point of sharing with anybody who comes in, because I don't really give any tracks away.
Right.
I'm not a street preacher, I'm street evangelist. That's quite different.
It's a difference,
But street preacher could be street evangelist, but street evangelist is not a street preacher.
Right.
So I never preach to the crowd. I wait for people to come to me.
And you have a more intimate interaction there.
Yeah, because that's my goal, just talk one-to-one for the person to see who they are and then give a gospel accordingly. So that's how it started. But of course, my aim was also to Muslim.
Right.
I came out with like talking to everybody, atheists, Hindus, you name it, right? Catholics, people are coming to us, to me, to my friends as well. But the difficult part with Muslims, because they come to me and start asking questions. No matter how I answer the question, they seems like they not satisfied, right? So I don't change their mind or something. But this time I kind of knew, because I already read the book, I read the Quran and I compared with the Bible. Yeah. I knew the Quran is not from God for sure. It's a false book, but how can I tell them?
Yeah.
And for 4 years I was struggling. Like literally I had very little desire later on to even talk to Muslims. I was not happy.
Really?
And I said Muslims, I was like, oh no. Even it was my initial idea, reach out. So I was trying to find a way how can I wrap up the package? I mean, I have a package, but since the wrapping is wrong, right? Something is not right. But it was one meeting I got with one Muslim guy came to me, and she pointed to the Bibles on my corner of my book table. And she said, is it the word of God? I said, yes. Second question, how do I know it? Well, take it and read it. It's free. She said, no, before I take and read it, before I open it, I want to know. So how do you know a book by the cover? You can't judge book by the cover. You better read it. I said, no. Before I open it, I want to know. Prove me, or something like that. I don't remember because it was years ago, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, how can I prove you? Like, you have to read, man. Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
So he said, no. And then I said, I've been frustrated for 10 minutes. I don't know. We go back and forth. No results. I don't understand what he wants. His demand is too high. I don't get, right? So I said, you know what? Why don't you if you don't want to read Bible, read the Quran Bible comparison. At least you can get part of the Quran, part of the Bible. So he take the book, he looked through, and he should drop it on my table and say, I don't want to know what's inside. I said, you know why you go to hell? It's not because you don't know the truth.
Yeah.
Don't want to know the truth. That his answer was like really knocked me down. And he was like visibly scared from the way I talked to him very aggressively. Normally, I'm just talking like that to you, right?
Yeah.
Peaceful guy. Right?
But your anger kind of came out in that moment. Yeah.
Like immediately with no reason. I don't know what happened. But I was really upset with him and condemned him to hell. So he walked away quiet. And for next couple of weeks, every time I remember that interaction, I was disturbed. Stupid question he asked.
What's that?
And it bothered me. But at the same time, I was going to Christian-Muslim dialogues. And one of the topic was, one of the Muslims said somewhere out of everything. That's what I remember from that meeting. He said, you Christians invented original sin. And of course, I'll have a lot of people around talking, like Muslims and Christians alike. When he said it, if I have a chance, I pull out my Bible, find spots, and then raise my hand. I said, reply back. And I start from Old Testament only, from the end of Old Testament to the Genesis 3 and then 2.
Yeah.
When he looked at me and she said, that was changed. And that's put me into I was stunned.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything to him. I was thinking, okay, first you blame Paul when I show you the Old Testament. Now you're blaming Moses because the last thing it was Torah, right?
Right.
So I came home 11, 12, midnight or whatever. So going to sleep. I went to the computer and opened the browser, the Quran, and I typed the Torah for the first time in my life. As 9 years, I was doing this research. First time I do Torah and search. And what I find in Quran is actually, what the author of the Quran is speaking very highly about in the time of Muhammad. And I was, how dare you say that? You have to follow your book. Why you going against your book?
Yeah.
So next month, I visit the same place and I have a printout of old verses. He was not there, but other Muslims that were there. And I stood up and I just read these passages saying from the Quran, saying, how dare you say about the Torah that corrupted them? Your own Quran said otherwise.
Right.
And there was silence. And I thought, oh, that's something interesting. So that's the way to go. And then it's Toronto came exhibition of.
And is that, Alex, is that